and today we're going to talk about how I got into collecting model horses. For those who don't know me, my name is Amelia and I am the face behind AquaModels. I am a model horse collector who customizes, loves taking photos, makes YouTube videos, shows in both live and photo settings, and was a former tack maker. And like most of you, I'm obsessed with horses. I've never owned my own horse before, so riding lessons and this hobby was another way for me to have one, just in plastic form. And I've learnt so much, even made connections with people and gained friends from all over the world and experienced things I never thought possible. So let's start with my childhood. My fascination with horses kind of comes out of nowhere. My mum, uncle and auntie did ride when they were younger, but it's definitely not genetic. Regardless, that didn't stop me from drawing stick figures of horses, which eventually grew more realistic over time, as a lot of you know. My favourite books always had horses in them. I can definitely say that The Saddle Club was one of my favourite TV shows at the time, and I would constantly freak out over seeing a real horse literally anywhere. It doesn't matter what shape or size they were. And apparently I wasn't going to grow out of this infatuation of mine. So my parents decided to send me to riding lessons when I was 10 years old. And the first horse I ever rode was this gorgeous paint named Mojo, and I was obsessed with him. He was my favorite to ride, and it wasn't long before I was riding many others in the years to come. And although I don't ride so much anymore, I still volunteer and get to hang out with some gorgeous ponies, so I can't complain. But back on the topic of model horses, I didn't actually start out with collecting Breyers. My first models were schleich, and for Christmas in 2010, I was gifted with my first 3 models. The schleich retired Pinto Stallion, the retired Hanoverian Stallion, and the retired Tennessee Walker Stallion, all of which I still own today. And honestly, I didn't really do that much with them physically. I may have played with them a little bit, but they were kind of just there for the aesthetic look. But it wasn't long before I found out I could actually go and buy them at my local toy store. So you can imagine that I took every opportunity and used every dollar I saved to buy more of them. And that's pretty much all I did for about a year, was just collect as many as I possibly could and put them on the shelf. But then YouTube shed some light on a whole new community that I had no idea about. People that were just like me, who were making YouTube videos about them, and it made me realize I can do so much more with my models. So I started obsessively watching Second Chance Stables, Schleich Horse Lover 200, Daisy Stalls, Lucky Horseshoe Stables, Buckthorn Stables, and so many more. I also started buying the schleich stables, the accessories, making my own stalls and barns out of wood and paddle pop sticks. I used tutorials to help me make my own tack, and even set up an entire barn on my family's pool table because it wouldn't fit in my room. Needless to say, I spent hours making halters, lead ropes, blankets, stable sets, riding sets, harnesses, and that's pretty much all I did for a couple years, was play and make stuff for them, until I launched my Instagram account in 2016. My first username was Schleich Horse Lover 0706, then I moved to Riversun Stables before switching to Striding Dream Schleich. And if you remember that username, or you were around for that long, feel free to comment down below because I'm curious to see who's been around for that long. But that was pretty much the name that I stuck to, and I even created my first YouTube channel with that user as well. This of course allowed me to branch off into my photography era. My first photo was taken of my Hanoverian Stallion Ranger in my backyard with an Apple iPod. Oh my god, it goes so far back. It feels like it's been so long since we've had iPods around. I did over edit the photo just a little bit back in the day, but honestly it's still one of my favorite photos. Tack trades were also a big thing back in the 2010s, and I actually had the opportunity to trade with 2 of my biggest idols, Schleich Horse Lover 200 and Daisy Stalls. They were certainly the highlights of my 2010s. But of course things didn't stop there. It wasn't long before I realized I needed an actual camera, so I bought my first big girl camera, which was very exciting. I can't remember what version it was, but it was a smaller camera than what I've got currently, which is an EOS 200 Mark II, D Mark II. Oh my god, 200D Mark II. EOS Canon camera. That's what I'm using currently. But yeah, anyway, I had actually saved up for that camera using the funds that I got from my Etsy shop selling tack. So this kind of actually helped me realize that I can create things, sell them, and then also put that money towards the hobby, basically. But then I learnt about customizing, and honestly, this didn't cross my mind at the time, despite the fact that I loved drawing and doing art. So it became the single most amazing thing because, as a lot of you know, it's my primary focus in the hobby today. The first few customs I did were pretty decent, but I mostly just experimented with different mediums like acrylics and soft pastels, which, by the way, I don't recommend. They are horrid to use. Use pan pastels if you decide to take that route. And I managed to paint a blue roan, a splash pony, a buckskin, and even tried a blue roan paint just to test my skills a little bit, all of which didn't actually turn out too bad. Then lo and behold, I found out about breyers. My first traditional was Trooper on the Cleveland Bay mold, and he was actually a gift from my family. And although my family supports this amazing hobby, they don't really like to fuel it. So that was probably one of the only model horse related presents that I've gotten in my entire life. Everything else I've always paid for myself. So anyway, that wasn't the only breyer that I ended up getting during that time. I actually managed to get an Icelandic, a Vallegro, a Brunello, I think it was the braided variation. I got a Picasso, and somehow I managed to acquire an ethereal water back in the day. I have no idea what happened, but I think very vaguely I remember only spending like $50, Australian dollars by the way, on this horse. I mean, he wasn't perfect, he definitely wasn't LSQ, I'm pretty sure he had flaws, but I still don't know how I managed to get my hands on an ethereal water back then, so we're just gonna go with it. But then I got an airbrush, and this pretty much changed how I customized my model horses moving forward. I still use an airbrush today, and I will probably continue to into the future because I'm obsessed with using it. It's so much fun. You can do all sorts of things with airbrushes. And when I first got it, I seriously couldn't wait. I'm pretty sure, actually no, it was the afternoon that I got it. I was setting it up and testing it out on some model horses that I had. So yeah, that happened. I also tested out my camera a lot after I bought it, and I found that my photography improved quite drastically with that camera. I was especially in love with the depth of field that the camera produced, like, because with Apple iPods, there was nothing. There was no depth of field whatsoever. It was literally just a photo of the model. You could see everything in the background. It was crystal clear. But with the camera, it actually blurred out everything behind the model, and I was obsessed with the way that it looked. And of course, I also got into more of the editing side of things when it came to photography. Then in 2018, I decided to relaunch my social media under the name AquaModels. I did really love Striding Dream Schleich, but now that I was moving into collecting other brands, it just didn't feel like it was a very inclusive name, so I decided to go with something that revolved around everything model horses. So that was the year that I started to really get into collecting breyers. I got my first custom, Nomad, who I still have today, by the way. He's sitting on my shelf in here. I also managed to get my first Copper Fox model. Her name was Marble, and she was the Pinto variation of the Connemara pony. Over time, I did manage to acquire a couple of others, like Lakeview Knights, a Matt Toby, and I also got a Matt Cabri as well. I unfortunately did sell all of these, regrettably. I kind of want to get them all back now because Copper Fox, their models were just absolutely beautiful. In terms of YouTube, my watch list did broaden quite significantly to Infinity Breyers, Foxy Glory 123, Snoopy is my horse, Breyer Trot. And as you can imagine, my content started to change, and I started to move toward making tack and painting traditional scale models. In 2019, I actually made friends with Amber Breyers, or Ammon Ridge Studio as the last name that they were known by. Unfortunately, they don't collect anymore, but when I stumbled upon them, we had actually found out that we lived in the same cities. So we got together and we became friends. We eventually started doing writing lessons together, and then we started to volunteer every Saturday at our local stables. We also filmed my first short film called Castaways, and I tried looking for the footage, but all I've got is bloopers, so you can just feast your eyes on our model horse madness here.
And whoop. And then walking forward.
Oh, they're so heavy.
Yeah, when you... Oh my goodness. He's got mud all over his face now.
That's to his character.
Oh. Oh. Then came 2020, and we all know what happened in the world, but that did not stop me from jumping right into the hobby. This was the year I first discovered artist resins, and for those who have been around for a long time, you may recognize Deja Vu. He was a fun resin that was painted by Elena Daniel of Sugar Sweet Studios, and I was obsessed with him. I believe he was my first piece ever from Elena, and I clearly haven't lost my obsession with her work because I have got multiple pieces from her in my collection today. This year was also the first time I got to experience Breyer Fest, as the event was online, and I had hoped to attend in person for the first time, but that was totally botched after COVID, so I participated online with my friend after Breyer announced that they would not be having the celebration in Kentucky, and honestly, where would we be without it today? Like, virtual Breyer Fest is so awesome. Another part of the hobby I really wanted to focus on during this time was filmmaking. And as many of you know, I started my first Breyer series, Entity. And this required a lot of effort and support to get off the ground, but I am so pleased that everyone has loved how it turned out. The series really pushed me to explore more deeply into storytelling, do more cinematic filmmaking, editing, and of course involve other people that are very talented, by the way, to create something that everyone really enjoyed. And who knows, I might come back for a season 2. In terms of customizing, I really pushed the boundaries and created pieces that really blew me away at the time, and honestly they still do. This was the year that I really got into herring detail and developed my own kind of style. My Breyer and stone collection had also expanded quite significantly. My first stone was Smashing Pumpkins, who is sitting on my shelf behind me, and I still love him. He's still one of my favorites. I also did a lot of collabs, one of them being with Infinity Breyers, and honestly, Trinity, I'm still so surprised that you agreed to do that photography challenge with me. We had so much fun, so thank you so much for doing that. We've been friends ever since. Then came 2021, and this was the first year I joined the Breyer Premier Club, and I've been a member ever since. The models they've released in the last 5 to 6 years have just been absolutely stunning and are hard to resist. I also bought my first ever limited edition stone horse, Titan, who I renamed Okino. There was only 6 made of this guy, and I'm still shocked that I managed to snag the last one at Stone's sale. That was just insane. He will be a forever piece in my collection. I don't intend to let him go anytime soon. I still volunteered at my stable, but kind of stopped riding lessons for a short while after my friend moved on, but I never stopped my customizing, making accessories, or doing photography. If anything, I experimented a lot more with colors and patterns with my painting, and even started making my own stickers as well, which was really fun. Then I found out about photo showing. It wasn't long before I caught the show bug because we all love winning actual ribbons for our ponies, and those who know, once you start, you can't stop. Towards the end of the year, I actually had managed to achieve a partial holy grail. Partial holy grail? Yeah. He was a custom on the Alborozo mold, and funny story, but right after I'd taken him out of the box, we had a very small earthquake hit where I live, and it was shocking, like literally shocking at the time, because we don't have earthquakes where I live. It was very strange, and I'm grateful that I managed to get him out of the box before it, and that all of my models were okay afterwards. 2022 was probably one of the biggest years for collecting. I expanded my stone collection quite drastically, even acquired my first ever one-of-a-kind model, Shiro, who I'm still obsessed with. I slowly started to add more resins to my collection as well, and my Schleich ponies were also on full display now because they were away for a little bit. Stonehorses had also selected me as a stone ambassador, and I know they don't do the ambassador program anymore, but it was so much fun, and I was totally gobsmacked that my friend Bombay Breyers was actually my ambassador partner, so we worked together and we absolutely killed it. The whole idea was to promote stone and come up with fun challenges to showcase their incredible models, and because we worked with stone for a year, we earned our very own model. We were allowed to pick a mold and design her ourselves, and after convincing stone for a bunny with a windswept mane and tail, we settled on a dappled flaxen chestnut with 4 socks, a star, snip, and a kissy spot. We named her Pacific, or Fifi for short. which is a reference to the Pacific Ocean that sits between our countries, Australia and America, which is where I am from and my friend is from, so very fitting. And as most of you know, I have a soft spot for snips, so she is a forever favourite in my collection. My first ever live show was Greater Sydney Gallop 2022, and I have to admit I was both overwhelmed and blown away at the same time. I got to meet so many of my hobby friends in person, and there was so much to do and learn on the go. I did know a little bit about showing experience, but that was mostly just from photo showing. So live shows are a whole other game, but I have to say that I definitely enjoy live shows more than photo showing. It's more hands-on, and I was very pleased with how my models did at this particular show. They placed incredibly well. My second show was later in 2022, and that was Rengalade Live, another amazing show that was hosted by a good friend of mine, and that only fueled my hunger for live showing. I also wanted to get more involved with judging, so I pushed myself to learn more about breeds, conformation, colours, patterns, and genetics. But my favourite division to judge is most certainly workmanship, as I get to see all these amazing resins and customs and literally struggle to put placings on them because most of them are incredible. In 2023, I had many achievements in terms of holy grails. I managed to acquire a Rainier, which has been on my wish list for years, so it was just amazing that I managed to acquire him and that he was located in Australia, of all places. And if you watch the unboxing video, you could see my reaction when he was in my hands. I was totally speechless. I also snagged an original Alboroso, which was another dream come true for my collecting journey. This guy is incredibly difficult to acquire, and it was even more of a blessing that he actually showed up for sale in Australia. My resin obsession also didn't disappear. I soon added Azula to my collection. She's a Stromnus resin I had purchased and had customized by Sugar Sweet Studios, and Elena literally nailed her. Her face mutation is just beautiful, and she's everything I imagined. A fellow collector, Zeus Tack, had also sent me some of their work to review, and I was grateful to their halter sets that they sent. They were so beautiful. I did also buy some tack from Infinity Breyers, so I was starting to get back into my love of tack, even though I don't have anywhere to really put them. I tried some new things while painting for commissions and even challenged myself with my photography, trying to focus more on editing and color grading, as well as more cinematic shots when filmmaking. Even though I wasn't doing a whole lot of filmmaking at the time, I do really miss it though, so I seriously need to get back into filmmaking. But overall, my collection was in a really nice place during that year. But then came 2024, and this was a whole other chapter. Not only did my customizing journey reach an all-time high, but I was able to travel to the States to experience my first ever in-person Breyer Fest. And honestly, I don't even know where to begin with this. With the help of my two gorgeous friends, Space Out Studios and Bombay Breyers, we were able to pull off the trip of a lifetime. I booked flights in 2023, but the realization hadn't actually hit me until the day I flew out. I couldn't be more grateful to my friends for letting me stay with them and that they drove me around. It was literally mind-blowing to be in Lexington, Kentucky, going to the Clarion, meeting people I never thought I'd actually see in person, like ever. Meeting the real horses, going to watch the performances in the covered arena, buying my special runs and unwrapping them right next to the tents, going to the social media meetup, Equilocity, running through the Clarion with friends such as Infinity Breyers, Mr. Bobby's Models, Tackerized Films, Snoopy is my horse, Bombay Breyers, and meeting so many other collectors and friends like Amy Wolf, Peppy Breyer 88, Lightning Leo, Morgan's Models. I can't even name everyone off the top of my head, but thank you all so much for such an incredible 2024. That was truly the highlight of my year, but it wasn't the only thing I did in 2024. I attended Rengalade Live for the second time, and it was even more exciting than the first because it went from a single day show to a 2-day show, and so many of my friends were there. I got to say hi, and I actually met people that I hadn't met before, and we even had an Uko lineup on the table, which was so awesome. We did the whole color grading thing from lightest to darkest, and my guy Unagi was on the very end because he was the darkest despite his glorious silver mane. I did take a short break from filmmaking, but wanted to fire up again and experiment experiment with a scene in a new series I was hoping to get off the ground, but we'll see. It's kind of on discontinuation until I figure out what I want to do. But I had so much fun getting red food dye all over my hands and washing off the fake wounds in the sink. I think they're my best wounds that I've done so far, as weird as that sounds. But the biggest thing in 2024 is that I moved out of home, like almost right after Breyerfest. So everything changed quite drastically and I actually got my first ever pony room. Moving was a bit precarious, but I can guarantee you that everyone made it there safely and I was able to start a new chapter in my personal life. 2025 was a bit of a quieter year for me. I only attended a couple of live shows and decided to take a break from Breyerfest. I have to admit it was a little weird not attending in person or online. I did have a little bit of the Breyerfest blues going on, especially with everyone's videos and photos flooding my social media feed, but I promise I will make up for it this year. 2025 was the year that I really wanted to focus more on my customizing and work on finer details like more realistic dapples, shading and herring, and honestly, I'm beyond thrilled with where my paintwork is, and my sculpting and restoration has also really improved quite significantly. I'm very, very happy with where my customizing journey is at the moment. And then of course we have 2026, and so far I've managed to complete some of my best custom pieces to date. Poseidon, who I finished in January and actually filmed his entire process in a video, so make sure to go and check that out. But my all-time favorite custom at the moment is Alderon. He's a Salvador resin that I was commissioned to paint for a friend, and he certainly has some of my favorite dapples and shading that I've ever done. Buckskin has always been a hard color for me, so I'm very, very pleased with how he turned out. And I also had the opportunity to take him out for some photos. I'm very happy with where my photography is, especially with how I'm capturing all of my models, and I'm able to edit at a higher level now thanks to my new editing tools. A lot of you know I use Adobe Lightroom to edit all of my photos. But my goal for this year is to attend more live shows and hopefully work on some more of my filmmaking again. But the biggest highlight for 2026 will certainly be attending Breyerfest again in person in Lexington, Kentucky. I can't wait to see everybody there. It's gonna be so much fun. I'm so excited. I've been prepping and getting everything ready, and it's just so hard to believe that it's less than 2 months away until Breyerfest, so I'm so excited. So that is pretty much my model horse journey up to date. I hope this inspires you to share your model horse journey. It wasn't always sunshine and rainbows for me. There have been times where I questioned why I spent so much time and effort and money on plastic horses, but truly this is what makes me happy, and as far as I'm concerned, I will continue to collect into the future. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You can also check out my Instagram at aqua.models, and I will see you all in my next video. Stay legendary.